Hello everyone, welcome to a new rating video. Before we're going to begin, this video is going to be a little bit different because the original plan was to go to Apex Boulders, but I instead went to Radium yesterday. So yeah, that video about Apex is still going to come out, but there is like a bit of a problem and I'm gonna explain that now. I'm not really a person that really loves to talk about injuries, and I also don't really get them that fast. And when I get injuries, it's usually because I overdo things or that I just try too hard because I always try to climb as hard as possible, and that I just pull something or pull a certain muscle, and then I have to rest for a really long time until I can climb again. This was kind of a sudden type of injury, and it all started with this stupid chair right here. 2 days before I was going to rate Gropo, I wanted to edit some stuff, and when I got up, I felt a really nasty pop and a really sharp pain in my knee. So yeah, the thing is, I don't know what it is, and I am definitely going to a physiotherapist to figure this out and make this pain stop, because yesterday when I wanted to climb in Radium, I eventually felt that even though I was climbing down, when I was moving my knee like this, it just really hurted. The weird thing is that when I you know, was climbing in Radium, just the first 10 minutes, I didn't feel anything. But when I was like moving my knee like that, I just felt like immediately like really sharp pain. And like that just kept on going for like the whole day. And when I was done climbing and I wanted to go home and I eventually was in the train, the pain just continued until I had like an ice pack on it, and I literally like lied down for I think like 3 hours, and then the pain was like a little bit bearable. And me being me, I usually don't really listen to my body that well. So when I went to Gropo and I climbed there, I had it again. And in this gym, I had it again. Now I'm here making a really different video because yesterday didn't really went like I was planning it should go. So yeah, when I went into the gym was the regular climbing type of climbing gym you would normally see. Like it was kind of like Kunststof, but then a little bit smaller. You had these age numbers that you had to be to that you could enter the training area, and you had these things basically like on every single part of like the training areas. You had cardio in the first training area, and here you had basically like weights, a campus board, and dumbbells you could train with. And of course also the age was on in this training area too. I do think that they could have made the campus board a little bit bigger, but I think I will have to rate the training area a 9, because I think having a cardio area and having a more really like weight training area is really nice to have. As you guys can see right here, I needed to climb down because if I were to jump from the end hold, I would have really big problems with my knee, which I eventually already still had at the end of the session because I jumped down on one of the boulders, which was quite a bad idea. But yeah, I started with warming up on 3s. Normally I just would warm up on 8s, but because of a review that we are going to be going through, I think it was better to just start with the lower grades to really answer the review better. Before I am going to forget this to rate the safety and safeness, I'm going to rate it a 8. I think the gym has really safe rules, but I think they can maybe put more rules into the gym and make it more accurate and more that you can when you want to use something, that you know how to use it, and you know the age that you have to be. And I also think with the youth training, I think they can maybe like have more people, you know, making sure that the kids aren't climbing under the people. And I also think that some of the people in the gym didn't really, you know, knew when to climb, because I kinda, you know, had some instances where I wanted to climb a boulder and someone just like, you know, literally like beside me at a boulder that just went like straight into like my boulder, which I think was maybe like not, you know, that safe. But I'm going to rate it at A8 because I think there's a lot of gyms that are a lot less safer. So yeah, for our first review, I definitely think that most of it is true. There is quite good air conditioning, I feel like, because I didn't really sweat that much in this gym. So I'm going to give that a false for this review. But there is a t-shirt policy like in any gyms from Kunststof. And this is a gym from Kunststof originally. And there is also not that many super friendly people. I didn't really climb that much with like a lot of people, and people weren't also really like, you know, social in this gym, because I got quite weird looks when I tried to, you know, talk about a boulder with someone, while in Monk Eindhoven I didn't got that at all. So yeah, I think I'm going to remove 1 point, because I only remove 2 points if the review is completely right. So yeah, -1 point. So for our second review, we are more going into like the service of the gym. So yeah, basically I think the Bouldergym is really nice, but I definitely feel like this guy is kind of right with what he says here. The people behind the bar don't really like seem like they really want to be there, and I definitely also think the service is quite poor. There aren't really that much people behind the bar too. I saw most of the staff members just like sitting on a stool at the bar, not really behind the bar. And you know, they kinda like, you know, expected people in the gym to, you know, check in themselves and not really needing any help or something. And when someone needed help, they really didn't look like they really wanted to be there. So yeah, I'm going to remove 2 points for this. So yeah, this guy's completely right with what he said. This boulder was legit like easier to normally climb it than it was to climb down, by the way. Yeah, it was quite funny. So yeah, now enough for now with the reviews. I think the wood setting in this gym was quite nice, but I still do have a few like problems with the gym's wood setting. I definitely feel that the boulders have like a lot of technical stuff to them, like a lot of hooks and toe hooks and knee bars, which is always really nice to have. But damn, the boulders are so long, and it's like, you know, it's more like you're climbing woods than you're like, you know, climbing boulders. This boulder right here is a great example of what I just said. Like, what is this? Like, this is like a complete wood, and it's like really weird because some of the 8s feel harder than 9s, and some of the 6s legit like feel harder than some of the 8s, which is crazy. Like, it just feels also so extremely much more harder than most of the other gyms I've been to from Kunststof. And like, it feels like the grades are all over the place. You have like 6s that are legit harder than the 8s. 8s are normally like rated 6C to 7A, and 6s are usually rated 6A to 6B, but 6s legit like feel harder than 8s. Just think about that. Which is just like crazy, because that should mean that the 6s should be like somewhere between the 6Bs and 6Cs sometimes. Which, funny thing, felt like that too, but alright. This dyno was quite cool though. I enjoyed doing this one quite a lot, but I definitely feel like that if you're like long, that this boulder is quite easy though. But yeah, going into our next review by Kimberly Goosens, I can kinda say that she's right. It's a beautiful location, except from all of like, you know, the building stuff that they are doing outside of this gym right now. And like, the boulders are definitely like a lot harder than in most of the gyms from Kunststof that I've been to. Definitely like Energiehaven, Zuidhaven, feels like, they have like weights that are like, that the boulders also feel like, you know, this boulder gym has like 7 Bs that feel a lot harder than I normally get used to. And this 6 right here definitely felt like an 8 for me because it was so long and it had like two like kind of like dino moves, which like normally in sixes you wouldn't see something like this. And like, having really much great inconsistencies and having sometimes like a 7 that's really easy and then like a 6 like this that's literally like harder than an 8, it's just like, it feels really really weird. And I definitely feel like it can be definitely demotivating if you fall out of a 6, knowing that in a older gym you probably can climb a lot higher. And even though for me it's usually not really a big problem if like the lower grades are that hard, I still felt like I was struggling with some of the 6s, like the one you guys just saw, which normally isn't the case. So I was kind of like surprised by this. Also, when I was like reading these reviews in the train, I also really like, was surprised about them when they were definitely like true in like the climbing session. So yeah, but yeah, because this review is true, I have to remove 2 points for this. It's also just like with this one, this 7, it just like, felt so much harder than like the overhanging 7. I don't know why, but like the holds were so bad on this one, and it just felt like, so much more of like a struggle than like the other one. And it just like feels really inconsistent, like the lower grades and also some of the higher grades. So yeah, now that we are talking about the wood setting, I think I'm going to rate it a 7. Even though there's like a lot of inconsistencies and some of the boulders are harder than others, I definitely also think that's like a thing with this gym because they're quite close by Belgium and they also really want to, have wood setting that prepares you for outdoor climbing, because I know one of the wood setters of this gym because I climbed with her in Friends on like a 7C. And I know that this gym just really wants to, prepare climbers for the big outdoors and, try to, have boulders that help them progress a lot also in like the outdoor styles. And so it feels quite a bit of like sandbagged because they really want to try to, be on the same level as Belgium, but also give that outdoorsy techie vibe you will feel in this gym. Um, so yeah, but yeah, basically I was on this 8 and I really thought like, what is this boulder? It felt so weird. Like you had these really weirdly placed holds and really weirdly like technical stuff you had to do, and the holds just felt quite bad. And then like this ending hold was like turned upside down. I really thought like, what? How is this like an 8? But alright. So yeah, I still did some 7As, but yeah, there weren't really a lot of 7As that I did. I did try to do this one. I didn't know that this wasn't the start positioning. I really thought like really big footholds probably would be the starting position. Maybe that like the little like white dots that usually like mark the beginning were just like lost or something. But basically like the starting positioning was here, which was like a little bit like weird. But yeah, well, I kind of feel like this is 7A also, so yeah. I also did the boulder from there, but it didn't really felt like that hard. It felt quite much easier than this beta, but alright. But yeah, sociality. I definitely feel like there are some friendly people, but I don't really feel like they are that social. Yeah, I think most of the climbers in this gym are split in groups, and I feel like that's quite disappointing. So I think I will have to rate the sociality / friendliness in the gym, I think like a 3. I don't really feel like, I was really welcoming. Also, the staff really didn't look like they really, wanted to be there, and everyone was basically in like groups of people that they knew. And for the rest, the gym felt quite empty. There weren't really that much people. Maybe later in like the evenings there are more people, but during the day it just feels like it's quite empty, and like people that are there are mostly just like climbing with people they know and aren't really like ready to really be social with others that they maybe don't know, but alright. But yeah, I tried the cello a few times and I eventually managed to do it. It is quite a weird boulder though, and like the ending is definitely like the hardest thing, like the mental up. I eventually like did this one, but I think like how I climbed the ending was just like really bad. Like the handle that I'm holding right now, the crimp, I didn't know that that was a foothold when I was like up there. So yeah, I was like basically like searching for a foothold, but because the big red one was under me and I didn't really read it super good, I had like one of the worst I think top outs I have ever had in my life. Like no technique at all, only like bowing through it, because I really didn't want to use like a foothold that maybe wasn't that color, because then I had to do it over and over and over again until I was on this point again. But yeah, a cent is a cent, I guess. But yeah, cleanness, I think the Bouldergym had quite clean holds. I didn't slip out of any of the boulders, so yeah, I think it's going to be a 10 for me. I didn't notice any black spots and looked all quite clean. So yeah, I still managed to flash one 7A. There was this one. This one was quite weird and it was quite a hard flash for a 7A. It was definitely like a lot of like a harder boulder than I am normally adjusted to. But yeah, it was quite a nice boulder, I think. But yeah, definitely like the ending was definitely like felt quite hard and quite sketchy also. So you had to really like trust your feet at the end. Yeah, for ventilation, that's the last thing I have to rate. I think I'm going to rate at a 7. I think they can maybe place more fans, because there are some parts of the area that just doesn't really feel like ventilated at all, or that just don't really feel like they have really good ventilation slash conditioning. But I think it was definitely really nice that they opened some of the windows, so some of the fresh air could definitely like get more into the gym. I think that was quite nice. So yeah, I tried this 7B as one of my last hardest boulders for today. I think I could have probably topped it, but the ending was so weird and I just didn't really know what to do there, that yeah, I didn't manage to top this 7B. I was quite disappointed about this boulder because of the ending. I felt like everything was quite easy except the ending, and it quite frankly felt like I really wasn't climbing a really hard boulder, but rather just a really like one move-ish boulder. But alright, this was my best attempt on the boulder, but yeah, I think it was a little bit disappointing that I couldn't do this one. Maybe I just didn't feel good, or I just had like quite a weak session, because I felt that a little bit. I also feel like it was a little bit demotivating when I saw top logger and it was like marked as a soft 7B, because like I don't really feel like that's really the case, because I think there were also other 7Bs that were quite just like the same in like difficulty as this one. But yeah, it just felt quite demotivating to not really top this one because of like the one move, which is like the end. But alright. So yeah, I wanted to end my climbing session with a slab, also to show you guys that I do climb slab. And yeah, I definitely think this was quite a nice boulder. Definitely felt a few times that I was about to fall, but well, I quite frankly flashed this one, which I was quite satisfied about. But yeah, I think this slab was quite nice, and I definitely think this gym has quite good root setting, but there is definitely like a little bit of like a great inconsistency, and I also felt really tired after being 3 and 3.5 hours in the train. So yeah, but for the rest it was a really nice setting, and I really wish that I lived in Maastricht, so I could um, climb more in this gym. But I unfortunately have to go 3.5 hours with the train to get to this gym. So yeah, a little bit unfortunate. So the total score is a 6.5. I think the total score suits the gym very well. Um, yeah, I think I will definitely come back when I am somewhere close to the gym to have a session there. But the boulders are quite rated quite hard. And it was definitely like a struggle to even do some of the 7As. Yeah, there were like really long boulders, and like I definitely think the 7B that I tried was really nicely set. But like the ending was just really weird. And now looking back at it, I think I could have just done it if I focused more on like the ending. But I didn't, and I well didn't do the 7B at the end, which was a little bit disappointing. But yeah, that was the video for now. Yeah, I will see you guys later. Bye.